The 1-2 Football Podcast. The voices of tomorrow, here today. Hello and welcome to the 1-2 Football Podcast. A bit different today, as you can tell. If you can see, Nathan's not here. And if you can hear, I'm not Nathan. So it's just the two of us. It's me and Kieran today. Kieran, how are you feeling? How are you doing? It's a bit weird, just two of us, but should be good.
Yeah, it is a bit weird. At least I know that with the responses, no, we're not going to cut each other off. So I guess that's a positive. It's Euro season, so I am pretty good. You could be doing anything in the day. It gets to 2 o'clock and you're like, right, that's me done for the next 12 hours because you just know what you're going to do. So I'm feeling pretty good. How are you doing?
Yeah, I'm all right. You're saying throughout the day until you get 2 o'clock. 2 o'clock, I'll wake up. I've literally woken up, have a shower, have breakfast, and football's on TV. I'm doing all right. To be fair, I didn't plan on watching that much of the Euros. I thought, summer, let's get out, do stuff. I completely lied. I've watched quite a lot of it. But I've enjoyed it. I have enjoyed it. Some games, it's been the flip. The games I thought were going to be really good have been the ones I've been disappointed with, but maybe it's because I expected too much. And the ones that I didn't expect anything have been quite enjoyable to watch. So let's start. Obviously, where do you want to start? I say let's start. Where do you want to start?
I mean, I guess we just go right to the beginning of the Euros, which was last Friday in the game between Turkey and Italy, and the fact that I am absolutely terrified of that Italian team. And I think based off of ignoring what happened the game yesterday, or whenever this goes out, Italy's second game, they've probably been the team that have impressed me the most. So I guess and Turkey, ironically, probably been the team that disappointed me the most. So I guess we start there with just what Roberto Mancini's done with the Italy team.
Yeah, Turkey, before I go on to Italy, there's a lot to say about Italy, but there's a lot to say about this Turkish team. I'm pretty sure Nathan had them as his underdog competition, and we saw a lot prior to the competition with, right back, probably going to say his name wrong, Zelic, whatever it's called. You know what I mean. And with transfers to Arsenal or Man United or someone like that, but he's not had a good Euros. His price tag has got to be dropping massively. He's been one of my biggest disappointments, really. I was really looking forward to seeing him, if he's coming to the Premier League, and him and the rest of the team have been really disappointing. And you look at the Turkish team, and it's a good side. I'm not going to try and pronounce their names because, I'm just going to...
Want me to see that part?
Yeah, AC Milan's, he's playing at Cam or left wing for Turkey.
Çalhanoğlu.
Yeah, that's the one. I always say Karaman, but then you always get that wrong because it's obviously those guys.
I think it depends where you're from and how you say it. Yilmaz up front, though, who guided Lille to the Ligue 1 title with his goals. They've got a hell of a defensive pairing in Soyuncu and Demiral. So, I mean, there is a foundation there. And you've got Yokoslu, who impressed for West Brom in the last part of the season. So there are some good players in that team. It just seems that it's 11 individuals is what I've noticed. I'm slightly moving forward to their most recent game, but also in the Italy game, there just seems to be no organisation and cohesion with them as a team. And a lot of the time, when these kind of passes are being threaded through their defence, you've got one of their defenders 3 or 4 yards behind all the rest of them. It just seems like there's no real leader in that team, which I think is quite strange because Demiral plays for Juventus, so he's playing at a high level of football. Soyuncu has commanded that Leicester back 4, back 5 before, and Yokoslu was a very important cog in the West Brom machine in the last half of the season. Yilmaz up front, the captain, got that experience on his side, yet it just looks like they're all lost sheep, if I'm honest, and there's no real cohesion defensively going forward in their transitions when they win the ball and lose the ball. So it's been really disappointing.
I think the biggest surprise to many, and it's not much of a surprise anymore because we've seen it consistently over the couple of games, was how tired Turkey were so quickly in that opening game. They had no legs to run. They were absolutely shattered. And several teams have been tired. We've seen it's been hot everywhere, but they just weren't at it. They didn't seem prepared. Like you said, they seemed like 11 individuals. And we'll come on to this a bit later, but I'm going to touch on it now. 11 individuals, I thought, also seemed like Portugal. Now, yeah, they won, and in the end, it's quite a good win. What was it, 2-0? But was it 3-0 in the end? Yeah, 3-0. Yeah, it was, wasn't it? 3-0. But it's a convincing win. But for the majority of that game, they look like individuals, similar to the way Turkey looked. But yeah, no, Turkey have been really disappointing. But can't take it away from Italy.
No.
I have a feeling they could get to the final. I'm very confident in this team. Even win it. You know, everyone's talking about France. And yeah, France, you know, they beat Germany. They played all right game. Not an amazing game, but a decent game. And obviously you saw Mbappe's pace when he was running through. And that I can't remember who it was against. I think it might have been against Hummels. But the pace that he had just to accelerate and get it, he's an amazing player. You know, everyone says it's going to be his tournament, and it really has been so far. You know, he's been an incredible player, and you just look at him and you think, please don't go Liverpool. I doubt he will, but please don't go Liverpool.
No.
But no, Italy, I really think they could give France a run for the money or any other team in this competition, because right now, they, on the opposite hand, unlike Turkey, are playing like an absolute unit. You know, no one's better than anyone else. You know, they're all kind of, first game you could have looked at, you know, Immobile or Insigne or whatever. But now in the last game, I didn't watch it, but was it Locatelli that got the goals?
Yeah, Locatelli.
They have quality all over the pitch, and I feel like the fact that they haven't got any out-and-out superstars necessarily means that they're all on the same, you know, level, and it means that they can get on and play, and you know, everyone respects everyone the same. And I think that's showing that how they're playing and working as a team, which is we haven't seen in the likes of Turkey or Portugal, in my opinion.
The funny thing is that was literally what I was going to say. Is that, and you mentioned France there, and you look at some of the players in the French team, and of course they're going to work as a team. Obviously, there was the issue with Mbappe and Giroud that, you know, as I'm guessing has been solved now. But if you think about the level of players in that team, Kante's just won the Champions League. Pogba, on his day, in a France shirt with Kante next to him, is unstoppable. Mbappe is the best youngster in the world currently and will be the best player, I imagine. Benzema is just a goal machine. The depth that they have all over the pitch, the centre-backs that have missed out. And I tried to get my flatmate to name the centre-back pairing that France deployed against Germany, and he named about 4 centre-backs before actually naming the 2 that started. So, I mean, that just goes to show how much quality and depth they have. But you compare that to Italy, there's no one who really stands out. You've got the front 3 in Insigne, Immobile and Berardi, who are all just very good players, and they've worked together really well. Chiellini in defence as well. Spinazzola at left back has really impressed me, from someone I didn't know too much about. But the thing that really has kind of made me think, my God, this team really have something, is that midfield 3. Jorginho, Locatelli, and Barella. Oh my God, Barella. It's, what can I say? It's so perfectly balanced. They all complement each other so well. They're all very calm on the ball. They know each of their roles and what they're doing each time. They don't panic on the ball. They're very calm in possession. And that's without Marco Verratti, who I think is either injured or has COVID. I know he's missed the first couple of games, but if you think about it like that, that's someone who's kind of a household name, and you'd think he would get into that midfield. But judging off this, he doesn't come close. Locatelli was very good against Switzerland, and his 2 goals were very good as well. Jorginho, I have to be honest, I've never really rated him that highly. But since Tuchel's come in and in this Italian team, he just exudes calmness. And you just need a player like that to just put his foot on the ball, look up, speak to his teammates. And they found that balance really well. And they're already through to the last 16. And you could argue they've done it with ease, really. Switzerland and Turkey just have not troubled them at all. And I would like to see them against the better team. I'm not quite sure their path into the round of 16. If they do, I imagine finish as group winners. But man, I would drop everything to watch this Italy team play against, you know, a top national team, because then we can really see what they're made of. But I mean, they have been incredible so far. And that was the first game. And since then, no one's really. Belgium were always going to have their moments when you've got someone like Lukaku up front, who's just a goal scorer. A few shock results in there as well, which I'm sure we'll get to. But in terms of the other teams in Group A, what have your thoughts been about Switzerland and Wales and how they've done?
Just like you said, you weren't sure. They go against Group C, whoever tops that. So Netherlands, Austria, Ukraine, maybe. That's the group that I think Italy, if they go through, get drawn against. I think. I could be wrong, but I think that's right. The rest of it, Turkey, like we said, have been this bit disappointing. Wales, I didn't watch the game yesterday. I have to say I was out, so I didn't get to see it. But in the first game, what a weird opening game for Wales, in my opinion. Came out the blocks, 15 minutes, great football, great intensity. You looked at this team and you thought, you know what, they're here to prove a point. They want to carry on how they did in the last one, and then collapse. Absolutely dreadful, in my opinion. They didn't do it, and they got a draw. I think it was 1-1 in the end, but yeah, they weren't great. I didn't watch the game yesterday. I know they won 2-0, was it?
They squandered a lot of chances in that game, but they quite comfortably dominated.
I was going to say, I saw Bell missed a penalty, but they still won 2-0.
Yeah.
I mean, it looks like they did better. Although I say that they were shocking, I've got 3 players down that I think have shocked me, and they're all from this group actually. So for Wales, I've got Ward in goal. I thought in the first game he was amazing, very good. He did. He kept them in it. I can't judge, like when I'm saying these 2 players, 2 of them are from Wales. I can't go off yesterday's game, but or for us yesterday, but I can go off the first one. Ward in goal was incredible. He kept them in it. You know what? Who's he at currently? Is he at Leicester?
I think he's the Leicester backup keeper.
Yeah, he's been incredible. And obviously he's not going to go ahead of Schmeichel, but I mean, if anyone's looking for a good goalie, maybe, getting promoted or championship or whatever, but he's been phenomenal in that first game. And then Daniel James, Man United fan, not always his biggest fan, and you can say, oh, you're Man United fan, that's why I'm picking him. Man United fans don't necessarily love him, okay? He's okay. He's not Man United quality. You're not going to win the league with Daniel James starting out wide. But if he plays every game like he did before he got subbed off, and angrily so when he got subbed off because he was having a good game like he did in the opening game, in a Wales team which I thought was poor, Ward and Daniel James really stood out. And I thought they did really well. And Daniel James, he looked like a completely different player. I've seen him play for Man United, and I've not seen him play like that since probably his opening game against Chelsea when he scored his goal. He played really, really well, and the commentators were all ranting and raving about him, and I was shocked, just like everyone else was, I think, when he got subbed off. But yeah, he looked really good, and I'm glad to see that Man United players doing really well. But whether or not he brings it back to Old Trafford, who knows? But for Wales, I think he's going to be massive for them in this Euros. Like I said, can't judge what he was like in the game yesterday. I assume he started. He should have done, by the way that he played in the first game, but he's really stood out to me as well. So Ward and Daniel James, 2 people that I thought in a game that was poor from Wales, did really, really well.
Yes, I was going to say about Dan James, I think the way that Wales set up, it suits his just direct running.
Yeah, it's that back-and sort of football.
Yeah,
break
behind for him to just sprint into. You've got Kiefer Moore in the box, who's a lethal target man, as he showed in the Switzerland game with his very good header. So it suits him down to a T, really. He can do the things that he's good at. Not necessarily the best in terms of in front of goal, minus obviously the spell of games he had at the start of the season when he joined, when he just couldn't stop scoring. But what he is good at, with the ball at his feet and the space in front of him, and that's exactly what he's been allowed to do here.
Kind of like Sterling for England, to be honest, in the opening game. Getting the ball down, just running at the defence, terrifying them and making them commit fouls in order to get set pieces. And obviously with Kiefer Moore, if Wales get a set piece, he's a tall bloke, he's going to get his head on it and it's going to create chances. So it does, like you said, he works perfectly in that system. He's had a good tournament so far.
It's always going to cause problems, things like that, I think. And in terms of Group A, Switzerland were the better team against Wales, which leads me to believe that they will get something against Turkey, and I imagine that Wales will finish third in the group, but I think they will have enough points to finish as one of the third best placed teams, in that I think you can have 4 from the 6 groups, so only 2 miss out. And I'd imagine there's a lot of groups where there's maybe 2 worse teams who might only get 1 or 2 points, maybe 3. Wales already have 4. They've got to play Italy, which is a difficult task, to say the least, by the way they've been playing.
I think
but I think 4 points is probably enough to get them through to the round of 16.
Switzerland is the other person that's really, I thought, did really well. Like I said, I didn't watch it yesterday, but in the first game I saw, Mbolo, he was massive. He was meant to be the next big thing. You know, everyone was saying how he's going to be great. I think it was in the last Euros that he kind of came onto the scene a bit. Could be wrong with that, or World Cup, one of them. And then, he kind of just nothing really happened, nothing really materialised. It kind of, not done badly, but it didn't get the big, money move and that sort of progression that many thought he would do. But in the first game for Switzerland, I thought he was amazing. I thought he was great. And yeah, he was just a constant threat. And Bolo, someone I'm going to really keep an eye out if Switzerland go through. I think he's going to be, one of the main assets and one of the big players in that team, because he was really good in that opening game.
Yeah, to move on to kind of the other groups in Group B, I mean, I think it's quite difficult to not mention what happened to Christian Eriksen in the Denmark-Finland game, which kind of overshadowed everything in terms of football. And it just kind of gave everyone that opportunity to take a step back and think, this, football is a game that everyone loves, but in that scenario and what we saw and what the Denmark team endured, it pales in comparison. So I think we can both say we're happy to see that Christian Eriksen is okay. In terms of that group, it was kind of difficult to watch football for the rest of the night. But I think one player you can always put a smile on your face is Romelu Lukaku, just in that he's a goal scorer and dedicated his first goal to Eriksen, his inter-teammate. But when you've got someone like that up front, you've got to be one of the favourites.
Yeah, I think Belgium done really well. I think it was Nathan. He's ill today, but he's not here. But I think it was him that turned and said, Belgium have players which, turn up on the big occasions. I think it was Carrasco, he said, was one of the players. And he's right, he doesn't necessarily... He's not the most consistent former for club level, I don't think. But for Belgium, he's always, at the top of his game, and he's always playing really well. And with that, him and Lukaku, going forward, they're a threat. And if I can see, I think it could be Belgium and Italy maybe in a quarter-final. I think maybe that's the way that it could lead to. I could be wrong.
It'll be a hell of a game.
It'll be a really good game, yeah. I think Italy would win, personally. I think Italy are better most, all over the pitch, but it'll be a great game. Lukaku, proper gentleman, proper player when he dedicated it to Christian Eriksen. I just want to say that one of the first words you said when talking about that, what you saw, I just want to highlight, what we saw was dreadful. I think that I know it wasn't the BBC that were the cameras, but they still could have cut it sooner than they did. And I think showing the wife grieving, well, not grieving, but sad, showing the resuscitation, showing his face, I think it was just disrespectful. I'm not going to go into it anymore, but I just think it was absolutely horrible. But it's, I would say one of the easier groups for Belgium. I think they've got a fairly easy draw. Russia are an okay team. They did quite well when it was the home World Cup for them. Finland, Denmark, nothing crazy. So we want to move on. Group C, actually live right now as we talk.
Yeah, a lot of goals in these games.
Yeah, I mean, so let's start with Netherlands. They're top of the groups now. Their game was probably one of the more interesting ones of the competition so far.
No.
What was that?
They didn't half make it difficult for themselves.
Yeah, that's a weird team for me. It's a team that's got a lot of talent, and maybe this is a bit too soon for them. Maybe next year World Cup, maybe the Euros after that. But I think there's definitely promise there with that team. They have quite a young team. But with certain players, Gini Wijnaldum just signed PSG. What a player for them. He controlled the game, and in a game that, they did make it hard for themselves, it would have been a lot harder if it wasn't for him in the centre of the park. He's a different player, different breed of player than what he was playing for Liverpool, more of a defensive player for Liverpool. But when he comes on for Netherlands, he's that attacking sort of player. And I watched highlights actually when he was at Newcastle, and I think he scored 4 goals against Norwich one game. And I never knew that he had. Couldn't remember this, sort of goal-scoring player that he is. But clearly, Liverpool, preferred him in a more defensive thing. But when you unleash him, he shows you exactly what he does. And I'm pretty sure it was that he scored the first goal, was it?
He did, yeah.
In that game. And great finish and a great player. And I think he's going to be key if Netherlands want to do well.
I think that's just a testament to how good of a footballer he is in that he can play so well in a role that isn't his preference. And as soon as you allow him to kind of get forward, he's got a ridiculous amount of goals for the Netherlands, and he really leads that team by example. But someone I wanted to talk about as well, who kind of not necessarily caught me off guard, but Denzel Dumfries from PSV. oh my, I've not seen an engine like that down the right-hand side in some time. He was everywhere, and he got the winning goal as well. I don't know what they've been feeding him at PSV, but oh my God, I will have some, because if it means I can have that level of stamina over 90 minutes, it's incredible. He was a player who very impressed me, similar to Wout Weghorst up front, just a proper target man.
He impressed me, I do have to say. He did.
Yeah, I think playing off Memphis Depay, who's more of that skillful, technical player, a bit quicker, it's a partnership that's quite lethal. And I saw a lot of complaints that Frank de Boer was playing a back three, and that Moore wanted the team to be unleashed. I thought, as things go, they probably couldn't have been more unleashed. They were very attack-minded first, the ball. If anything, it seemed more defensively that they were a tad frail. In the first half, they kind of didn't have full control of the game, but then they grasped at the early second half. And then obviously the collapse within about 5-10 minutes, allowing Ukraine back into the game. So if anything, it's maybe defensively where you kind of have to ask the questions about the Netherlands.
On Dumfries, first of all, he has impressed. Yeah, he's had a great campaign. He's a player that I thought would have got a transfer, to Premier League maybe a bit sooner. He hasn't got a transfer, so when I say a bit sooner, I expect it to happen at some point, or to a bigger team. But yeah, no, he has been good. I think, if I could be wrong in saying this, but I'm pretty sure he squandered a couple chances before he did get his goal. But yeah, no, his work rate's great. His work rate kind of reminded me of, prime Bruno when he's fit at Man United, just getting up and back and doing everything for the team. So he's been great. But on the opposite side of players that were really well for Netherlands, someone that disappointed me a bit. And someone that, you hear a lot of now since he left Man United that he's been really well, linked with Barcelona. Depay, he had a bit of a quiet game, in my opinion. He had a lot of touches on the ball, but he didn't really be that threat that, he's sort of been at Lyon, and, it was the Depay that I used to see at Manchester United, kind of just always below what you expect of him. And I thought he'd do really well in this tournament, and so far, he's not really lived up to that expectation, in my opinion.
Yeah, I think that's fair. In terms of their opponents, who for us are playing right now, kind of in surprising people in kind of how good they are going forward. People like Miranchuk and Yarmolenko have really stood out to me. I think Yarmolenko in particular, because I knew how good he was. I know he's a top quality player. He's just struggled with injuries, but it seems whenever he plays or puts on the Ukraine shirt, he's just a fantastic player. And I think it's something like 42 goals in 90 appearances for Ukraine, which, no disrespect to Ukraine, it's not your top 15, 20 national teams in the world, so he has to work quite hard for those goals, and I think he's only 5 or 6 off Shevchenko, which is just a testament to how good he's been. And I think he'll be a big player for them if they're to get far in this tournament, and very possibly they could replace Turkey almost as everyone's dark horses. I'm very much looking forward to their game against Austria in the third match day, as I imagine that will be the game that decides who finishes second. Of course, North Macedonia is a great fairy tale story, and to be fair, from what I've seen, they're not a bad team. It's just they sometimes lack that experience in major tournaments, which they would, as this is their first one. But you've got players like Pandev and Alioski who are known to a lot of people, and it's been great to see them here. But I just think that, with what happened in the first game against Austria and what's happening now, they've got to go up against the Netherlands team, who look very good going forward. I don't see them keeping them out, and it could be a short stint in the Euros for them. But, I mean, what a story that is, though.
Yeah, I don't think I've watched North Macedonia yet, but Yarmolenko, yeah, he's been really well. I think he kind of thrives off of that, the spotlight on him in this Ukraine team, because he's sort of the leading man. If he doesn't form, it doesn't really, the team won't form. So I think he's like, not many players thrive under that pressure, but I think he's someone that's proven that he does. He likes that sort of being the main man in the spotlight. And talking of, Weghorst or whatever he was called up front for Netherlands, I think he could be quite a good signing for West Ham, personally. They're looking for someone to replace Haller. I think he could be a sort of good target man for them, but, I think that could be an interesting deal. But I think he will get a transfer if he continues at this rate. I think he's been quite successful in this tournament. But Group D, where do we start? Do you want to start with England?
I've got to start with England, haven't we?
can do, I guess.
I mean, what more is there to say other than it's coming home?
I don't believe that, but for the sake of this podcast, I'll cut that out and I'll say, yes, it's coming home.
I will never, ever say a bad word about Calvin Phillips ever again, because he was incredible.
I don't think you ever did say a bad word about him. I think it was me. I didn't even include him on my squad to go.
No, Calvin Phillips is our Wijnaldum. He really is, because he plays that deep-lying role for Leeds, and he does it very well, to be fair. And it's just in an England shirt next to Declan Rice, they just step on each other's toes, and they're very similar types of players, so it just doesn't really fit. And when I saw Rice and Phillips alongside each other, I thought, oh, here we go again. But, I mean, that couldn't be further from the truth. Rice was kind of marshalling the back four, sitting deep. At Calvin Phillips, if you saw his heat map, I'd imagine he touched every blade of grass at Wembley, genuinely, because the man was everywhere. And who'd have known he'd have, an eye for a forward pass like the one he found to Sterling. The volley that he had from the edge of the box against Croatia was incredible. And you can say what you want that it was 1-0, but I mean, Croatia really didn't threaten that much, and I think it could have been 3 or 4. I mean, look at Foden's chance early on where he hit the post, Kane's chance straight after Sterling's goal. I mean, this England team, if it stays the way it is, they're a threat, and that's with someone like Jack Grealish on the bench who didn't get on. So I mean, I don't want to big up our chances, but I mean, I would be disappointed if we didn't get quite far in this tournament.
Yeah, firstly, Calvin Phillips is a man unleashed. He looks reborn, and he looks, saying about Yarmolenko thriving off of the spotlight. I mean, not much spotlight was on him, but it sure will be now. So he better be with someone that keeps up, because it was a great, great game. And I just want to apologise, okay, Phillips. I didn't include you in my team. I've never really rated you that much, but right now you're a god, so I love you. I hope hope it continues. But yet, a lot of people were ranting and raving about the England game, and I've said it before and I'll say it again. I didn't think it was necessarily it was a good start. I'm not going to say it wasn't a good start. It was probably one of the better starts that we could have asked for. Performance-wise, I have got concerns. But then again, you win and you're playing badly, it's a sign of a good team. So, you can't complain too much. But yeah, I've spoken to a few people, and a lot of people thought it was a great game and a great performance. But personally, I thought a bit was lacking. I thought Kyle Walker was absolutely shocking in the first half. He pulled it back in the second half, to be fair to him. But first half, he was shocking. He gave the ball away, nearly sent Croatia through on goal, I think like twice. So he had an absolute mare. Sterling, credit to him. Yeah, he got the goal. Well done him. And I think it was his first competitive goal in an England shirt. They were saying all about these stats about how he scores really often, and they were all in friendlies, I think. So I think
his first major tournament goal.
Yeah. So well done to him. I thought, at half-time we were saying how he's doing well, and I was like, his pace is what's making him look good. So maybe Sancho, maybe Rashford could have done the same thing, with that pace run down the wing, but he proved why the manager picked him. He got the goal, so can't argue with that. Someone that disappointed me was Harry Kane a bit. And I think it's because, no disrespect to Spurs, but he carried over the same sort of system as he does at Spurs. He was coming too deep for me. I never want to see a striker, especially not of his quality, that deep. At one point, I'm pretty sure it was just a throw-in, and I was watching with my mate, and my mate turned around and went, Harry Kane just won that ball on the halfway line from a throw-in. And I was like, what the hell is he doing there? If we want a break, we need our guy in that box. And he's there, and he's been doing it for Spurs because, it's not been a great season for him. And fair play to him, he got assists from doing it. But in that England shirt, with the likes of Foden, with the likes of Mount, with Declan Rice, with Phillips behind him, we have ball winners, we have passers. Stay up the pitch. Stay up there, please, Kane, because it was a shocking game, and personally for him, not the best of starts. I really thought he would have scored. And when I saw him playing poorly, I thought we might not break down the team. But, like I said, if we're winning and we're playing poorly, you can't complain too much. But no, Kane's someone that I was a bit, I think he needs to up it. I thought it was a really poor start for him, same with Kyle Walker. But, I think we are in a good chance. I think the fact that that's the hardest, I'd say, game in the group. Scotland won't be easy tomorrow. I mean, no matter how, Scotland performed so far, it's Scotland versus England. It's going to be that competitiveness. So, but you would hope that, it's going to be, I think it's at Wembley, isn't it?
Yes.
So, you know, coming to our home soil.
Words.
Yeah, words. Home soil. You would hope England would be up it and, you know, can go out there and smash Scotland. But I think it's going to be a tricky game. But no, England, yeah, I think they definitely have the ability. Whether or not they have the consistency to get far is another question. I'm not going to get too excited. I'm too used to being disappointed, being a Man United fan as well. So I'm going to keep it on a bit of a low key. But no, a great bunch of players. Great first result, not a great performance in my mind, but you know it's a good platform to build off of.
Yeah, I think it was a good start against, you know, the best team arguably in the group with us. Just on Kane, like you say, yeah, he doesn't need to do those kind of things, but if you can have your probably best player or up there with one of your best players have a poor game and you still win, I think that just shows how many quality players you have. You know, because Foden was quite quiet. Mason Mount, I mean, I don't think Mason Mount will ever have a bad game, to be honest, because his work rate off the ball was incredible. But he didn't do anything special as such, you know. But people like Sterling, Mings, Pickford, Phillips were all very good.
Mings
Sorry?
Mings had a great game. Everyone was doubting him, and we were doubting him whether or not he should have started. I thought Conor Cody should have started, but fair play to him. You know, he really did turn up on the occasion when it mattered the most. And yeah, I think if he can stay that consistent, then, you know, I'm not that nervous with Maguire missing out, but I think he may be back tomorrow.
Yeah, it looks as though he is. But if I'm Southgate, I'm not sure if I change too much. You know, I feel like, I mean, it could be a game for Grealish, but there's no doubt Scotland are probably going to set up a bit differently to Croatia. I think for a start, they do play a back five to allow them to play both Robertson and Tierney. But as I understand, the latter is touch and go to play. So that could be a big miss for them. But, I mean, we haven't talked about the team who have already beaten Scotland in the Czech Republic on level on points with England. We'll have to play them in the final match day. And, you know, Scotland had their chances. But, I mean, what they lacked was someone who could put the ball in the back of the net, which, funnily enough, was exactly what the Czech Republic had in Patrick Schick. And, I mean, his first goal was a typical striker's goal. And his second goal, I mean,
that's not a typical goal, that is not a typical goal.
I mean, what do you even say? The ability to pull that off and the quick-wittedness as well, because he had about 2 or 3 seconds to think there and go for it. And you don't see many of those goals. And when you do see them, they tend to be scored by world-class players. I remember Harry Kane doing one against Juventus in a pre-season tour. But if you watch the goal go in from behind the goal, the curve he's able to get on it, and it just dips before it hits the crossbar. It's an incredible goal. And I mean, it could be someone to watch out for. And, you know, I wouldn't be surprised if the Czech Republic really gave Croatia a game, because they didn't really show all that against us. I mean, I imagine they'll play slightly differently and set up slightly differently. But, I mean, Kovacic and Rebic, Perisic had a few chances, but, I mean, they were squandered. None of them really stood out to me, whereas Czech Republic, you know, you've got Premier League players in there like Souček and Koufal who are very good. I wouldn't be surprised to see them get out of the group, possibly even as second.
I think, no, I was just about to say that. I think they'll come second. I think when I looked at the group, I thought they'd be down the bottom, to be honest. I thought they would finish dead bottom, depending on how Scotland turned up. But they look great. I think they're definitely going to come second. If not, they're definitely going to go through as one of the best third teams. They've already got 3 points. So that's comfortably going to be one of the best third teams, you'd imagine. But yeah, that goal, what can you say? It's, in a way, the only goal I can really think that I've seen similar to it, I'm not going to compare it to the Cavani goal towards the end of the season because it was a lot closer. I'd say maybe Wayne Rooney's. I can't remember who it was against. On the by the halfway line.
Everton or for United?
I think when he was scoring for United.
It was against West Ham.
Yeah, when he was like sort of on the edge of the halfway line, he turned and he got it, and it was from a similar sort of position. But, you know, the curl, when you look at it, when I first watched it, I thought, great goal, you know, it just kind of hit it and it just went forward and it dipped over it. But no, the curl it was incredible. The width that it went, and, you know, I don't know if he meant it to have that much curl on, but if he did, what a finish, what a player. And I think he's still young, to be honest. I think he still might be like 22, 24.
Yeah.
That's a great career. I think it's another player. No, I think this tournament is sort of, strikers are really, really not necessarily the big strikers, but the sort of the lesser known strikers are quite turning up. To be honest, we mentioned Netherlands and now him. So yeah, it's one to keep an eye on, and I think he's going to be someone to really steal the show this Euros. And yeah, it's an interesting group, the England one, to be honest. There's teams not performing the way you thought. Croatia, I thought were going to turn up. Scotland haven't really turned up, but England will have a tough game when they come against Czech Republic. I think so. But yeah, going down to Group E, Slovakia are top. Slovakia are top.
I would leave a few words there for me to then cut in, because I was going to have I had a really good segue, and I was going to say, speaking of an interesting group, because this one blown wide open.
It is crazy, and I just want to say, Skriniar was my backup man for centre back, and he went and scored. So good on him. But talking about disappointing teams, Spain, no one had massive expectations going into this. Similar to what team did I say? Similar to Netherlands, with it being young, with it being a team for the future.
Yeah,
Spain definitely are a team to keep an eye out. Maybe next year, but maybe that'll be a step too soon as well. But it's a great team, and you watched it, and the passing was good, but they just couldn't finish. Morata, yes, okay, he missed a sitter. He missed several opportunities, to be honest. The whole entire Spanish team did, but his work rate, I thought, was really good. But that said, I just said about Harry Kane's work rate, and that's not what I want to see in a striker. So I have to be consistent. And unless
at the end of the day, he's got to put the ball in the back of the net.
That 1-on-1, I think it was, you would have expected him to score 9 times out of 10. And Spain just needs someone to get a goal. And I think they'd be ludicrous not to start Gerard Moreno, to be honest, in their next game, or give Morata maybe another chance. But Moreno's a proven goal scorer. He did a lot. But yeah, they're really lacking that, that threat up, not necessarily threat up front, but that lethality up front. They need to get goals.
They're dominating all these games, or this game in particular, but nothing's really going their way. And it's a Sweden team, really, that doesn't have too many stars in there. But, obviously Lindelof in defence had a big part in keeping a clean sheet there. But, arguably, kind of thinking back to the game, some of the better chances in the game fell Sweden's way. And it was mostly down to Alexander Isak, he was great. Literally, the minute he was subbed off, all of us in our group chat were like, why are Sweden taking him off? He has been there. He's probably been the best player on the pitch.
Another player, I just turned around and said, this is a chance for strikers, this tournament. And I completely forgot about him until you just said that. But what a player he is. He's got, the quick feet, the agility, the speed. He is a modern day sort of, striker, and he could probably play it wide as well, I imagine, with the speed on him. But what a player. And to be fair, Sweden, I thought they controlled the game. They didn't have much of the possession, but I feel like they knew exactly what their game plan was, and they held their defensive line quite well. And Morata had that opportunity, so it was a bit poor defending there. But to be fair, they weren't the easiest team to break down, and I think that was proven. But Spain, like we said, can't break a team down. I'm pretty sure they set a new record. I think it was the most passes in the first half or something they did in that game.
Probably.
If I can remember rightly or something like that, because they did so many passes. But yeah, they're going to struggle. But no, him up front is a great player, and another one to keep an eye on with many other young strikers in this competition.
And arguably, they probably played on paper the best team in the group, and they've come away with a point.
Yeah.
But now you'd probably put them down to beat Slovakia, but Slovakia with that momentum of 3 points against a Poland team, you probably would have had them to lose to. It's blown it, wide open. It's going to be very interesting to see who actually plays each other next. Yeah, so the next match day for this group is Sweden-Slovakia, and then therefore it'll be Spain-Poland. So, that is really must win for every team but Slovakia, which is kind of crazy. I suppose actually it kind of is must win, or at least a point for Slovakia, as they will have to play Spain. But I could see that group being really close, with all teams possibly fighting it out. And the ironic thing is I could see this group not having one of the third place teams, but the team that go through first and second on 4 or 5 points, just because they're all going to, I think, take points off each other, judging by the first set of fixtures they had. So, I think everyone was looking at Group A with Italy and Turkey and Wales and Switzerland as being quite a competitive group. Obviously, you keep an eye on England's group and how they'll do. Group F, of course, which we'll come to. But, Group E has kind of shocked everyone. Same with I believe, Group C, which is the Austria, North Macedonia, Netherlands, Ukraine. Not necessarily in terms of shock, but in terms of entertaining football. There's been plenty of goals in those games. So, I mean, the groups
won 3 points in that.
The groups that maybe you were considering to not be the best have been pretty good.
A lot could change before this comes out tomorrow, because obviously games late, but
it would be our luck.
It would be, but if I'm a Spain fan, I'm being a bit worried. I'm being a bit, a bit concerned here, because Slovakia are already on 3 points. It's a great amount of points to be on already, and Spain only on 1, and they've got to play Slovakia. They've got to play Poland. It's not easy. No, tricky games for them. So unless they can start finding that goal scorer for them, they could be in trouble here. It could be bad for them. But moving on to Group F, what a group! And
except for everyone except Hungary.
Yeah. Hungary. I want to start with Hungary and how they were so hard done by. I mean. 3-0 loss, and I think this is the right game I'm thinking of. When 1-0 up technically before it was rolled out, and I went, "Oh my god!" And I saw them score, and I was like, "They're going to win this." And then I literally wrote afterwards. I'm pretty sure I put in the group. I said, "If I see one team scoring, it's Hungary." And no doubt, 30 seconds later, Portugal got a penalty, and I was just there like, unbelievable. It was just so unlucky, but Portugal really disappointed me. Jota especially. I thought he was all over the place. He seemed like a child, too eager. There is such thing as too eager, and he was the epitome of that in that game. Ronaldo was fuming out. I saw actually, I don't know if it probably was taken out of context, but Jota was walking out for the second half, and Ronaldo turned around, saw him, and shook his head at him, because he was quite clearly disappointed with the fact he didn't pass it to him, so he was through. And then I'm pretty sure he did it again. He could have laid it off to Bruno, and he tried to swivel. And the commentator was saying, if you're in that position, strikers think you're going to try it. But, in hindsight, it's easy to say you could turn around and pass it, but, maybe he did the right decision. But, I think he was just too eager, too wanting to, prove himself and get a goal. And I think it just backfired on him. And I'm not sure if he will start in the next game, personally. I think maybe, Felix will or something like that, or Silva. I'm not sure, but
I can't blame Jota, because everything he touched for Liverpool turned to goals.
It has, yeah.
So I understand why, obviously, he's doing that, but yeah, you do have to question, because there was a few occasions where he would probably choose the wrong option. But I think it's Portugal not necessarily playing with a striker. It was very much Jota was there as a false kind of 9. So I wonder how kind of João Felix, someone who could probably slot into that role, whereas Silva's a bit more of a proper number 9. So, I mean, Portugal really probably had the most pressure on them, in that this is the game they have to win, in that, we haven't even talked about 2 of the heaviest hitters in the competition, who they've now got to play. But, I mean, Ronaldo, 80 minutes of not a lot, missed a very good chance, comes up with the all-important penalty as well, and then scores a very, very, just a Ronaldo kind of goal.
It was, it was great passing for that. I think it was, it was great passing, and a great goal, to be honest, after what was a pretty poor performance from them. But we haven't mentioned managers yet. And I can remember messaging you and saying, what is this Portuguese manager doing? Why has he made these changes? And fair play to him. I feel like he got them pretty spot on. Silva scored, Renato Sanchez came on, and I'm pretty sure he set up the goal, the third goal. It seemed like confusing changes, and something that went really well.
That was an interesting tactic, in that I don't understand why he played 2 very defensive-minded midfielders from the start, in William Carvalho and Danilo Pereira. And I think both of them at times have had to play as a centre-back this season. So you do have to wonder, against a team like Hungary, why he would do that. I mean, one possible reason is you allow that front 4 to not necessarily come back as much, and the fullbacks in Guerrero and Semedo, who are very attack-minded, it allows them to sprint forward. But I mean, I look at the centre-back pairing of Pepe and Diaz, and I think I'll be all right with one DM, and you get someone further forward. So I'm actually really excited to see how Portugal decide to line up against France and Germany, because you'd imagine that they'll either try and match them man for man, or kind of playing those two defensive-minded midfielders will make a lot more sense against a team which will cause you a lot more problems.
I don't feel like, I was about to say, if you're going to do that sort of defensive mentality, surely you do that against someone like France. But to be honest, the French can score from all over the pitch. You don't really want to sit back and let them attack you, because they can definitely have the ability to score from outside the box. So it will be interesting to see what Portugal do. But to be fair to Hungary, I can't remember his name, and if I did, I'd probably ruin it. Tall guy, I think he plays in the French league. He was a captain all over the pitch, and what a player, in my opinion. I think he only scored one goal all season, but it looked like he should have been scoring loads more, because he had a really good game, in my opinion.
The up front,
yeah, their big striker.
Absolutely, yeah, I know who you mean. He was very good.
Good.
I know how to spell it. I think it's like get it, because he was kind of deserves some recognition. But also as well, while you're trying to find that, with Lee Orban in defence, he gave away the penalty, but before that, he was an absolute maverick. He was blocking everything and getting out to shots and stuff. And we've shown it there, so we're not going to try and pronounce it. But he was in this kind of game. He was everything you wanted. He was getting those free kicks in and around, the middle of their half, and winning the ball high up if he needed to. And Hungary had some chances as well. And like you said, they technically went 1-0 up. So their game plan was perfect, really, until they got very unlucky, because the goal was deflected. So, I think if that doesn't go in, they've at least got a point.
The last 10 minutes of the game went exactly how I thought the whole 90 minutes would go, to be honest. Hungary, they absolutely collapsed, and Portugal sort of took advantage of that. But for anyone that is listening and didn't see, I think the first name of that guy was Adam. So if you want to go on their team, let's look at their striker, Adam. By that name. But let's move on to France and Germany. And I just want to say, a player, we named a lot of players earlier. You named Kante, you named Pogba, we named Mbappe. Griezmann really stood out to me, to be honest. His work rate, his challenge. I can remember he got back and did a slide challenge and, won the ball. And someone that at times has been questioned at Barcelona. He's not necessarily been the player that everyone expected of him. He has moments of brilliance and moments of not so much so. But he had a great game, in my opinion. But I feel like everyone plays well for France. Even if you're bad for your club, like Pogba does, he shines and he sparkles next to Kante. And I don't think they've lost with that pairing midfield in 28 games or something.
Yeah, it's something ridiculous.
It's crazy, but I thought they might have scored more. And I think it was 1-0. They did, actually. They scored a lot more, and they all just kept getting cancelled out, to be honest. But yeah, I want to start off with the man of the tournament. Everyone thinks will be the man of the tournament, Mbappe. He thought he got on the score sheet. He celebrated like he did. He didn't. It was ruled out, like many other goals in that game. But what a player!
There's not a superlative to describe that man.
In my mind, he is. He's going to be hell of a lot more when he comes to the age of Ronaldo and Messi than they already are, and that's a big statement, because for his age, he is light years above what I would say Ronaldo was at his age. At that age, he was coming through at Man United, I think, at that age, and Mbappe is already probably the third best player in the world. Maybe I'd say he's above Neymar, and then I don't know who else you'd put above him. Haaland, I don't think is on the same level as Mbappe. You've got Messi and Ronaldo above him, but to say at that young age, what is he, 22, 21, something like that?
Either way, it's absolutely terrifying that he broke onto the scene when he was 17.
22. 2 years older than us, and the main man of the Euros, and that's saying something, to be honest. If he's the main man of the Euros at 22 years of age, please retire at 24 to stop making everyone else look rubbish, mate. Because
what are we doing? Like, that's the thing.
He's going to win everything. He's going to have won. Probably, if they win this, he's won the World Cup and the Euros at the age of 22. Ballon d'Or is just, it's going to happen at some time, probably maybe even next season. The Champions League will be missing from his belt, and I'm sure if PSG, don't buck up their ideas, he'll be heading out of the door to win that Champions League pretty soon. But what a player, what a person. And the speed and the acceleration, I've not watched much of him, to be honest, I won't lie. You see him, you see the highlights of him, but I've not really watched much of him in the game because I don't watch French football. But
he's terrifying.
Maybe I should watch French football because
he is terrifyingly quick.
He is indeed, and I hope England don't have to come up against. I don't think they can come up against them unless it's the final. I don't think can.
I think if we win our group, we play second in Group F.
Oh no! Oh
so
yeah.
Group.
Yeah. Yeah. All right, we'll scratch that. We can come up against them pretty soon, to be honest, and I'm terrified.
Well, is Group F second place we'd play?
Yeah, I did a predictor. All right, I did a predictor, and on my predictor, I put Croatia to come second in our group and France to top their group. And my predictor has France versus Croatia. So I think it's their first versus our second.
Yeah, it's Group C winner placed third in D, E, or F, and we're Group C, aren't we? No, we're Group D. So Group D will play. If we finish second in our group, we'll play second of Group E. If we win our group, we play Group F second place. So basically, one of Portugal, France, or Germany.
Yes.
And I lean towards Portugal and Germany.
Yeah.
So
France, I think, are going to top their group easily.
Yeah.
I think if Portugal have the same performance against that they did against Hungary, they will be torn apart. Although, I think if Germany play similarly how they were against France, I think Portugal could tear them apart, to be honest. I thought Portugal was so below par. I did not think it was a good game for them at all. They just didn't really have any attacking threat. You know, defensively, they were a bit shaky. There wasn't much.
Yeah, they've still come away winning 3-0, which, you know, could benefit them in terms of their placement in the group. You know, if it comes down to everyone beats Hungary, it is going to be a question of how many buy.
Yeah, I mean,
it
one
comes down to
1-0 against France, and it's an absolute dream for them to come away with that. Personally,
yeah.
It was. I think the next game I'm looking forward to watching. I'm not sure when it is. But I want to watch Portugal versus Germany because that is going to be a massive game. Is that the last game?
Yeah, so it's Portugal-France. So I imagine Germany will match Portugal on those 3 points. France will go ahead on the 6. And then for the last match day, you've got France on 6, Portugal and Germany. Then it's basically down to them as to who goes through second or third. Possibly not even as third if a few teams finish on more points. So, I mean, you could be saying goodbye to one of the best teams in the tournament at the group stages.
Yeah, I mean, everyone was saying before the France-Germany game kicked off that this should not be a group game. And to be honest, it kind of looked like it should have been with the way Germany performed. On paper, it shouldn't have been, but in real life, it kind of was. But that game, Portugal versus Germany, I've got it up here. It's on Saturday at 5 o'clock. So that is definitely going to be on my screen. And it's going to be a great game. Well, who do you think will come second in that? Do you think Portugal?
I do, yeah. I think Portugal. I think they'll buck their ideas up now that they've got this Hungary game. They'll have been worrying had they not beaten Hungary. It's not the best performance, but at the end of the day, you got 3 points on the board and you scored 3 goals. And you look at the players in the team as well, and you can't really deny how good they are. So I do fancy them to finish above Germany, I think.
Yeah, I think, I've said about England, winning when in person, I didn't think they played well, is a good start. And Portugal 3-0 win, and I didn't think they performed very well at all, is a great start, really. And against a Germany team, which I thought was shocking, I think Portugal really could cause problems for them. But then again, Germany, it was against France, so I think France can make any team look poor. So it'll be interesting to see. It's hard to sort of gauge how they'll do, but what a tournament it has been so far with some turns and shocks that you wouldn't have expected.
Yeah. Well, just everything. Turns, shocks, wonder goals, teams that have disappointed, teams that have gone under the radar. And, now we're thinking of... Because I doubt if we'd have had this conversation before the Euro started as to who would win, Italy would be like, yeah, they'll do quarterfinals, maybe semi-finals. I think they will win. I really do think Italy will win the Euros. That's kind of
I think they'll
where
get
I'm.
to the final. I think they'll get to the final.
I don't see them losing. I really don't. That's the thing.
I think if they play Belgium, and I think they can play Belgium, if they play Belgium and they have a really, really good game against them, and outperform Belgium and they look really strong, then I think they'll win, yeah. I think that France, no disrespect to them, they won the World Cup, so they might have a bit of an ego. I think they might have, in a bad way that is. Sometimes ego's good, but I think the France, I think they think they're the best team. And I think they sort of maybe a bit, it's not being, not going with the typical French person being arrogant, but I think they may be quite arrogant in the way they're going, and that can be good in some ways. But I think Italy. I think Italy may use it to their advantage, and they're happy to be the underdogs. So they're going out there's no real pressure on them. There is a bit now, but I mean, going up against France, you would think France would have the pressure on them, and that arrogance and the pressure could suit Italy down to the ground, but I think that will be the final. I can't believe I'm saying this already. It's been literally just basically the one game in each group. But France, Italy, the final for me. And
yeah, they're the two strongest teams. It's just about where their paths lead them. If they are on opposite sides or could be on opposite sides of the tournament, I don't see many other teams from what I've seen so far and what I know beating either of them. So I would not be surprised if that is the final. And I think it will be a great final.
Yeah, it's easy to say that now, although I don't think we would have seen some of the shocks that we've had so far. So anything can happen. I mean, no one expected Turkey to do that bad. I don't think anyone expected that wonder goal the other day. So if the tournament's anything to go by, don't get confident with that prediction just yet, because for all we know, everything could change. To be honest, France might not even get out of the group stages. They will.
It's possible.
They will, but
you never know.
It's worth dreaming. Dream, kids, dream big. But yeah, I think that's a good place to end it with Italy 1-2 footballs. Nathan doesn't have a say on this. Screw him. Yeah, he is. Italy's Nathan's favourites to win it as well, so it's mutual.
Nice.
Italy are gonna win the Euros, but who could pip them? England. So come on, England!